Okay. Well, then it's 7:06. I think we can get started. We can go through the agenda, but yeah, we just can't vote on anything. Or do we think we can?
I think we can.
We think
I
we
don't
can.
think I
Okay.
don't think we're not voting anyway. I mean, I guess we kind of are approving the minutes and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I'm gonna pose a motion that Ben be
Oh,
acknowledged as chair.
true.
Do I see a second motion? I guess I'll second, or Allison second it. Do we have any further discussion on this item?
Are you willing?
Oh, I'm very willing. I mean, I kind of feel like
Well, you
the role is kind of there. Yeah. So yes, I am willing.
you've stepped it seriously. You've stepped into it really well.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean,
I'm very grateful that you're stepping up.
get the thumbs up from Jim. That makes me feel good too. Okay. All right. So, let's vote. All in favor of me stepping in formally as the chair? Raise your hand, say aye. All right.
I
Any abstentions? No. Any no's? No. All right. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, citizen comments and concerns. So, we have two citizens. So we'll give Jim the floor first. Jim, you got anything for us this week or this month? No? Okay, Dan, I know you kind of gave us an intro, but if you have anything specific you'd like to talk about or mention,
I guess I kind of jumped the gun by
that's
introducing
okay.
myself, but
Oh, that's great.
no, not really. Just curious to see how things are going. I always see the EV charger update as an item. I'd like to hear about that. Yeah, just happy to be here in the new year and see how you all are doing. So I'll check.
Great. Thanks,
Please
Dan.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Like I said, I moved here in 2018. I live in Bristol Village co-housing. I'm in the co-housing right here in the middle of the village. And we've got pretty decent envelope in our buildings here. I think environmental stewardship is important to Bristol Village co-housing. And it feels like we probably should have more representation throughout the town's, kind of official entities like this. We have a couple of business owners, and I don't think we have anyone in any sort of official positions. But yeah, so I think that part of this is for me here is also to just be a little bit of an outreach and extend our community's wishes to kind of help out on a wider stage than just the 2.5 acres that Bristol Village Co-housing takes up. So many of us are friends with Sally, and Sally occasionally spends some time here with us as well at dinners and stuff like that. So we know a little bit about what's been going on here. Me personally, like I said, I've been an activist in the climate sphere for a while, both here and previous to moving here. I did, Richard, I don't know if you remember me, but we've met
I
about
do.
Extinction Rebellion in past years, and I've done quite a bit of nonviolent civil disobedience with Extinction Rebellion and with other groups, both here in Vermont, but also regionally in some of the cities in New England and New York, I guess. Um, just kind of being an oppositional force. And so feeling like maybe it's time to change tactics a little bit and work to build something instead of always, kind of pushing back against the baddies all the time. So that's part of this my attendance tonight as well. So I don't have any specific kind of education and energy related matters. Just kind of a voracious, reader of everything. And then I kind of know, I think where the world stands as far as energy is concerned and, climate in particular. So I'm sure I could use some brushing up, but it does feel like I'm aware of some of our local situations as well when it comes to renewable energy and whatnot. So I'm just kind of excited to see what you all are up to here. So
Great.
if you have any questions for me, let me know. I don't have many answers, but that's my intro.
Right.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks,
I do
Dan.
remember you. The light bulb started to glow a little brighter as you talked.
They start to drone on. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, great. Thanks, Dan. We appreciate your attendance tonight. So I think that covers citizen comments and concerns. Next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I know we already added that first item on the chairship. Does anybody have anything else to add to the agenda? No. Okay. And then approving the December meeting minutes. I know it was a kind of a weird time of year. I don't know if anybody read the December meeting minutes, but they're out there. So if anybody has any clarifications or anything, let me know as always.
I move to approve. They're good minutes, always.
I will second that. Any discussion? No. All in favor of approving the December meeting minutes? All right. Nice. Okay, now into the fun stuff. So the next agenda item is our is the update on the EV chargers. So I reached out to Ian about that because obviously, as I think most of the committee knows, with Richard's intense involvement, we did and the select board's help, the town submitted that grant application, was awarded it, but we didn't really get any additional information about it. It was just, yep, it's a level 3 charger for that specific space behind Shaw's in the parking lot by the I think it's a chocolate
Yeah,
yeah,
it's right
right?
behind the co-housing,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, it's very close to co-housing actually. Yeah. Yeah. So we know we got that. We know we got the grant for that, but kind of next steps and kind of wanted to understand how can we as the energy committee help kind of move it forward. So I reached, and I know we talked about it last meeting, and I brought some of the things we talked about last meeting to Ian and said, some things we had discussed was specifically. And I gotta find my email here. I ran out of steam here to filibuster anymore. Apologies. Let me find it. Basically, I told Ian, yeah, we talked about it in December. We want to see how we can continue to help. Um, where is this email? Hold on. I got it here somewhere. Well, I can tell you that Norwich EV has not heard anything additional about the funding, so the moving forward in terms of construction is still an open question. In terms of when that will happen, I don't think we know yet. I think Norwich is kind of trying to stay on top of it too, in addition to us kind of being the the gnat in the ear, right, of folks to kind of see where it stands. But yeah, here we go. So I also had asked Ian about if there's any other improvements in that parking area that we might need to consider, like street lighting or specific signage, right? That had come up last month. And then for the signage itself, how do we, what sort of standardization is there? Because obviously that blue EV is like very burned in my mind as something that's like this is the standard sign. And Ian got back to me, and it sounds like. Um, and I'm not familiar with the site, so I didn't know this, but there is street lighting already there, which is great. So that's already, as far as I know, it sounds like it's pretty well lit. And then signage is going to be needed, and kind of how to direct drivers to Main Street once, because it's kind of a little bit off the beaten path. So let's say you can direct somebody to the charger and then figure out a way to direct them to Main Street while their car is charging. So um, some of that signage, and Ian also mentioned potential upgrades in that little alleyway that's between the site and where Shaw's is, and kind of making that a little bit, improving that a little bit. And And Ian had mentioned that I think the first step on that is talking to Pomerlo, who owns the property, and kind of start to move, kind of describe to them that and what that process looks like. Um, Ian kind of punted it back to us and said if the BEC, if we want to take the lead on that part of it, we could. But I know we talked about it last month. We want to be careful about how we take the lead and what specifically that means, because we can't make any decisions. We can't design anything. We don't, we're just kind of, uh, we're just in inertia, right? To get stuff moving. So. And Ian also mentioned that there's a zoning permit issue that I had bumped into him and he had mentioned this to me and I had completely forgotten about it last month. I guess I think the way that the zoning laws work is if if something is not specifically listed in the zoning laws of the town, it's explicitly like not an like we can't, or there's like the zoning prohibits it, I think. So I think the town is trying to do a zoning ordinance for that. So that might be something we can put a pin in and keep our eye on to make sure that once the funding for the project happens, or we get some clarity on when it will happen, there's not like a zoning, stumbling block, right? That it's like, oh, we have to make sure that we've got that organized too. So I've been talking for a while, so I guess ultimately where I think things stand are we don't know when it's going to happen, but the next steps seem to be the zoning thing, which the select board is aware of and Ian is aware of, and talking to Pomerlo about potential improvements for that alleyway. So, you know, I don't know how we feel about getting involved on talking to the private landowner about it. It doesn't seem like something appropriate to me.
Jim's shaking his head.
Yeah, Jim's our guy. Yeah, yeah. Jim says probably not. Yeah,
So who should, Jim? Should it be the select board?
The select board is the ultimate decider, but wherever this thing is gonna go, whoever owns that property has to apply for a zoning permit. And you guys are just supposed to be an advisory group, so you shouldn't be taking any type of action. And somebody would have to go before AZ Lawson, who was the zoning administrator. And if you have any questions, you can stop in and see AZ and ask what the procedure would be, but it's not in your realm, it's not in your area.
right,
But
right.
yeah, the property owner would have to go for any zoning permits.
So
Yes.
who owns that property?
Where are you talking?
I think
Between
it's the
Shores and-
Wells,
Between
Is it the
Shores
Wells
and
that own that?
but
Shores
I
and
think I think they're
Walgreens?
selling it too. I think that's what I heard, that they were planning on putting that up for sale, so that might be a little
And
extra
weren't
scope.
weren't you talking about the alleyway between Shores and Walgreens?
Well, I think, yeah. So Jim, I think there's kind of there's
Right.
two
Two areas.
parts of it, right? There's where the charger's going, which sounds like owned by the Wells, might be
Right.
getting sold, not sure. But the alleyway where we would potentially do or want to see some improvements to direct people to Main Street,
Pomerlo.
that would be owned by the property that
Pomerlo.
Shaw's is on, which is Pomerlo.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that does need improvement. It's pretty shabby.
Right.
I won't tell you what that used to be known for.
I can imagine.
Remember when my kids were in high school, they always used to tell me, Mom, that's where everybody goes to buy drugs. And I'm like,
Oh, geez.
I
like,
walk
what?
through there just about every day to go
Mm.
either to Shaw's or Walgreens, so it's
I
really good
know.
to know that history.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like an active drug site.
No, not anymore,
Not
hopefully.
anymore.
I don't think so. They just do it online.
Or at Eagle Park.
Yeah.
That's right by my house.
No, Eagle Park's up on the way to
Oh,
Lincoln.
what's the one near me? Down
Sycamore.
here. So that's the one. Yeah, Sycamore.
Sycamore.
Yeah. I go fishing at Sycamore. Anyways.
So I guess, should we should we take the action to go talk to the zoning administrator and just kind of understand, or is that really the select board that has to do that?
I think maybe
It's the property owner.
Oh, okay, but they
Apply
don't
for
even
one.
know. They probably don't even know, right?
Well, if they're gonna have this charging station, they have to go
Yeah, you would think so.
as the property owner, but the select board chair is the one who makes the decision on who takes care
Yeah.
of that. Or,
Yeah.
or see Ian, because he's the acting administrator right now. And,
Right.
Right.
of course, you're jumping ahead now, you wait till the project gets started first. And then worry about that.
Yeah. So I think that it kind of seems to me like for the site for the charger, the biggest impediment or hurdle or something that can happen now, even though the funding is still TBD, would be the change to the zoning to permit the charging station there. And so that's something that the select board handles, probably passes it, approves it at a meeting or something, just so that it's done and not an open question for when the funding does happen and there is a design and the contractor's engaged and goes to build it, then there's at least a zoning law in the books that the property owner can apply for the correct zoning permit to have it installed on there. Yeah. And that all makes sense to me from the charging station perspective itself. The whatever improvements might be helpful for directing traffic to Main Street, that seems a little bit more open and sort of like I don't even know where we would start with that because that's ultimately that would have to be Pomerlo would have to agree, and I don't know how any improvements there, whether it's a sign or I don't know some sort of like it's kind of like a dirt thing, right? There's like maybe some sort of pavers or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because I'm not super familiar with the area. But all of that would be something that the select board would probably want to go to Pomerlo to say, hey, we're doing this project, and it would be really great if we could improve this transitionary area between where we're trying to direct people and where we're trying to get people to go when they're parked there. So I guess ultimately I'm kind of talking in a big long circle to arrive at. I don't really know what the role is for us. Like,
Why don't, I'd be willing to talk to Ian and
okay,
scope this out.
yeah.
You know, what are the steps? Um, knowing that we're only advisory, but um, can we help facilitate in any way?
Yeah, I think that I mean that's our role, right? We're trying to be the inertia. So
Yeah.
um I think that makes sense. I mean, I can I don't know. I don't think anybody else was on that correspondence with you. No. So yeah, I think yeah, Richard, that would be great just to understand um what we can do or how we can help facilitate, right? Because ultimately maybe we're just getting two parties in the same room and then we just don't do it. We don't say anything else. We're just the local advisory group that is trying to make it happen. So I think that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And it kind of
Okay, I'll try to find out
okay.
by the next meeting. I know the select board and Ian are working on town meeting day right now. And
Yeah,
anyway,
budgeting.
yeah,
There's a lot, yeah, going on, and we're probably at the bottom of the list or near the bottom. But there is a little bit of time too, in that we don't really know when the funding for the project is going to hit, anyways. And I still think that zoning issue to actually get it built on that property is probably like we can get the zoning if we can get the zoning and get the thing built. That directing people to Main Street thing that can happen after the charger's already there
oh
if
yeah,
that's right, like that's something that can happen. That's like almost like a beautification project that can
it
happen at
is.
some point.
It is.
It's not critical to getting the charger installed and wired up and ready to go. So but I think understanding what can be done or what the right process is to get the right people in the same room to talk about it is important at this stage. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. I think that is everything on the EV charger. Unless anybody has anything else, I don't have anything else on that item. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the an update on the MERP grant responsibilities and next steps. I will readily admit I did not attend the select board meeting when this was discussed. I believe in December, so I'm not really sure where things stand. Allison, was it you or David who was at the last
Um,
meeting? I can't
I don't know
remember.
if I went. I don't know if I went to their last meeting. I can tell you what I'm seeing in base camp. Because
Sure.
it's so. Dan, are you aware of what the MERP grant is?
I just a tiny bit, but you might as well just assume I know nothing.
So we applied for this municipal energy resilience program grant. The state had like, I don't even know, was it like $86 million or something that they could give out to people, and we applied and we received a grant in the amount of $325,000. And our intent is to use that to weatherize Holly Hall. So we had done a lot of work with uh, an architectural firm to kind of come up with a really good plan. And when we first put in our application, we applied for $500,000 because that was the max. But then they gave us 325. So we've had to rescope a little bit about, the work that we were going to do. So the current status as I know it, and I have sent a note to Ian to understand exactly where we're at, is that we pulled together scope of work to get the work done, and we are intending to send it to 4 contractors: Smith and McLean, Silver Maple Construction, Naylor and Breen, and Building Energy, to get there. We wanted to provide the scope of work, and then we hopefully can have like almost like a pre like a supplier conference kind of thing where we had they help us come up, with what our plan is going to be. We just thought that would be a more collaborative way and potentially more efficient to do it that way. So I believe that Ian has the to-dos to send the scope of work to those 4 contractors, and I am not sure where we're at with that. So I have reached out to him to get confirmation of what that is, and just where are we on this. And again, I struggle with a little bit, like, I know we're not supposed to do any work, but I just struggle with, I know it seems like Ian's kind of there's a lot of stuff that he's trying to do right now, and I just worry that, he could become, like the choke point in the process. So hopefully we can just keep asking questions and keep pushing along. So, because as you're all aware, we have 2 years to spend that money. And 2 years goes by really fast, especially when there's all kinds of other towns in the state that are in the same boat, trying to work with probably some of the same contractors. So I think it's going to be important that we get somebody, locked down sooner than later. And in parallel, the library also got a big grant to do some weatherization there as well. And even though they're not related, we're trying to make some, do some economies of scale potentially, and kind of maybe get some of the same contractors doing some of the same work. So yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So I don't have a whole lot to tell, but hopefully I'll hear back from Ian and I'll have much more to report next month.
Good. I mean, I think honestly, I think, December and January, our meetings typically are a lot of like, we're following up. People have other priorities this time of year.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, even if Ian had gotten, maybe Ian has sent the scope of work out, but
Yep.
I can't imagine a contractor would have looked at it, but between January 1 and, now or
Yep.
whatever. So, yeah, I think similar with the EV charger thing is it's just kind of like, it's a bit of a slower time. People are starting to
Yep.
ramp back up. So I think that makes sense. Okay, just taking a few notes here. Okay. All right. The next agenda item, I just threw it on here, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I'm hoping Dan might be able to help us. BEC, we are looking to recruit folks. We have 2 vacancies. We have 1 vacancy right now. We have another vacancy that will also be, I mean, we technically have 2 vacancies. So we are looking for more people. I was thinking I could post a few times on Front Porch Forum, just dedicated posting to say, hey, we're looking for folks. Here's what we do. Here's what we've worked on in the past that you might be familiar with. To kind of just get people interested. I mean, I don't really have any other ideas for recruitment other than really Front Porch Forum. If you see people in town meeting day might be a good opportunity to talk to people too, because we've got our section of the town report that that says, hey, here's what we do. So I think that, people are kind of thinking about it. People are reading town report and they're seeing all the different committees. So I think that's a pretty good opportunity too. Um, and Dan, not for nothing, but the recruitment or the application process is very straightforward. You just fill out a piece of paper, you hand it to Sharon in the clerk's office, and you go before the select board, and they'll ask you a few questions, and so it's a pretty straightforward process, and we're looking for people who are passionate about the mission, about what the energy committee does. So we're always looking for people. But yeah, I think from a recruitment standpoint, like I said, I'll post on Front Porch Forum if anybody else wants to as well, go for it. I don't think I think it's helpful to have multiple voices. If people keep seeing my name with energy committee, maybe their eyes glaze over. But yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind, I guess, going forward into this new year.
One of the really cool things that I'll put in a little bit of a pitch for is being part of the energy committee. You also have access to an organization called VCAN, Vermont Energy Committees Action Network. And I just went to a seminar or a webinar that they held today. They hold webinars like every 2 weeks on Wednesday at lunchtime, and they just talk about different different topics that are of interest to people. And today they talked about the different, they had 4 speakers that gave presentations about, different aspects of, they talked about, water quality, land use. There was 2 other that I can't think of off the top of my head, but being part of that is really, it's been really interesting for me. You just get to, you get to interact with people all over the state that are doing the same things, and you get to learn what different energy committees are doing, and you get to share what we're doing, and it's been a really cool experience for me. So that's another, I think, added benefit. Ben, if we could add a little bit, maybe we could talk about that before you post something, but we could add that, you become a part of a larger network that's it's pretty interesting, and there's a lot of really interesting people doing a lot of really cool work. So that might be another thing that might attract people. I don't know,
Yeah,
Richard, do
I
you have
mean,
any opinion on that, Richard?
Well, I thought it might be good to read the first paragraph in the bylaws, which is the mission.
Yeah.
The mission of the Bristol Energy Committee. I love this part. A vital force in our community is to promote energy savings and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We recommend to the municipality policies and practices to ensure sustainable energy use, secure funding sources, and measure initiatives. We engage and educate the community by organizing related activities and projects. So things that we've done, we've had um, electric vehicle demonstrations in the park. We've generally tried to have a table at the Harvest Festival. We got kind of skipped because there were no tables of spaces available when we went to get one. So we have to make sure we do that early this year. We ran a project with VEEP, the Vermont Energy Education Project, down in the basement of the Historical Society to introduce people to the principles behind home insulation and things like that. So, on one hand, we've been kind of busy, like we wrote the grant and collected all the information for the MERP and for the EV chargers, but it then is out of our hands. We were authorized to do that by the select board. So we can take things like that on. But probably the more creative we are at engaging the community is something we need to get back to. More visible stuff. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, last year we also tabled a couple of weeks at the farmers market.
That's right.
When we did the button up stuff, that was that was fun. So
I still think we ought to design a t-shirt.
I think it's a good idea.
I do. I'm serious. I think that's some kind of approved design.
I just might have a graphic designer in my household.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell her that I told you that.
I think I know who you're talking about. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff we do, so.
Yeah, thank you for that. I didn't realize I was coming into the meeting and there was recruiting going to be one of the agenda items. I appreciate all that, including the MERP background. All of that is very helpful to hear. But yeah, I'm definitely interested. We'll just kind of roll with it here a little bit, but and I think like I said earlier that our community, we have a lot of interest in mitigation, sustainability, resilience, all of the above. The fact that it sounds like there's a possibility of having a charger kind of a level 3 charger in our backyard. We've got one, two, three, four level 2 chargers in the community now. And I don't know how many cars. We've got both full EVs and partial. So we're charging up a lot here already, and so we're big fans of EV charging. Just and to have one a level 3 one that's visible like that, we can do whatever we can to promote it as well. So we could kind of make it a community effort. And who knows, maybe another one of my neighbors would be interested in being on this team as well. So uh,
Great.
there
Great.
are some options here that it's I think I'm showing up at a good time.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. We've got a good core and, but I think we need to get more visible.
Yep. I agree. Um, okay. Oh, jumping back to the EV chargers, EV charger. One thing I wanted to bring up, um, Richard, I saw you emailed. I don't know if you emailed everybody, but you emailed that article about a couple other Vermont municipalities and how they're
Oh, yeah,
grappling with the rate paying or the rate structure and the town's electrical, demand increases and things. So that really piqued my curiosity 'cause I'm an electrical engineer, so it really kind of got the gears rolling in my head a little bit about like, oh yeah, how will that work with the one that we're putting or that's going to go in Bristol. So I don't know, maybe maybe it could have been part of the grant application or the grant structure. I don't know, but I want to ask Ian about that and get a better idea of how that's going to be. What's the expectation? Is it user fee? Is it I don't know. I guess there's a lot of different ways to do it. And that article was really interesting and kind of provided insight on how a couple different ways you can do it and how
right,
different municipalities are um, grappling with that as a park, as it relates to parking in general and energy usage more specifically. So, I think understanding the rate structure will be important, especially I would imagine that once this one gets going or we know the schedule for it, we'll want to try to get the word out a little bit. And I guarantee number one question we're going to get is, well, how does it work? Do I have to pay for it or how, And so I think to understand that, I think to have us understand that would be really helpful. And I don't understand it right now. So I'll take that as something to go back to Ian too, or maybe Norwich. I can even ask Norwich. They might know how that will
well,
work.
I know there are many wrinkles to this. I sent the article to Ian as well,
Yep.
and it really boils down to how you see the chargers. Do you see them as promoting tourism? In which case, that might affect your attitude about uh, not only what you charge, but if you charge, which some towns have found it easier just to make them available. Um, and of course, anything you do uh, can be revised. You know, you you try it out and then see how it works. But I know Richmond initially found that it was easier just to have a donation uh, place. You know, they recommended a certain amount per hour, and people actually donated more than it actually cost. The other end of the spectrum is the town doesn't want to have any expense connected with running them, and if you're using something like ChargePoint, there's an annual fee, and you want to have the people who are using them pay for all that. That's another approach. So it's going to be a policy issue for the select board.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I personally don't know. I don't have a good sense of, and this is probably, I probably could have, if I had been at some of the select board meetings, I'm sure this came up, right? I'm sure this wasn't a topic that just hasn't been talked about. I'm not the first person to think of this, right? So,
I don't think they've discussed it yet.
okay.
I don't
All
think
right,
so.
so maybe it's a wait and see. We'll cross the bridge when we get to it, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. But it's good to know that there are other use cases for all the different types of ways that you can do it. And yeah, I'd be curious to see what how in how they'll initially want to do it, and then like to your point, being flexible and whatever they decide when it first happens isn't necessarily the way it will always be, right? So that's good to note, is that whatever decisions are made, the select board obviously can change course. So that makes sense. Hi, Sally.
Hi, sorry about very late.
No worries.
It's good to see Dan Batten here.
Yeah, we're
Hey,
trying to
Sally.
recruit him.
Oh, great.
I don't know if it's working, but we're trying.
Okay.
We got the full court press here from everyone.
We haven't told you about the perks yet.
I just want the t-shirt. All right.
I think I think having a T-shirt could be useful for just letting the community know we're around, and also when we do events.
Maybe it could even say, Bristol Energy Committee, share your thoughts. We get more people to stop and talk with us and say, hey, what are your thoughts around energy in Bristol? What do you need? What do you want?
We could spark a discussion.
Yes.
Spark,
Mark, that's great.
energy,
Nice.
energize
Nice.
a conversation.
Yeah,
Nice.
here we go.
I had one other thing under other business that I just scribbled down here that I forgot to add to the agenda, or that I took off the agenda and then forgot to add back in, was just the bylaws, which Richard, you already mentioned. So I think at this point, now that I think, as far as I know, we're all comfortable with them. We've inputted comments from the public, specifically Jim, I think, had some comments that we incorporated, and Ian might have had some comments that we incorporated. So I think at this point, we give it to the select board and say, review at your convenience, whatever, get us on the agenda, and that'll happen whenever. But I think we're at the point now where we feel good about handing it over to the select board for their consideration, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I just sent you the most recent
Okay,
revision today.
great.
So
Great. Okay. Cool. So I'll take that to Ian as the town admin, and then he can give it to Ian as the select board member when the time comes, when they have time to consider it. Which who knows when that will be. Okay. I don't have anything else under other business unless anybody else has anything to add. Any other topics that we maybe missed or that I missed?
I'll get to read the minutes afterwards, so thank you.
Yes. If you have any comments or questions, Sally, definitely let me know.
you'll find out what committee you're head of.
Right, yeah.
Oh geez. Subcommittees, right? Okay. Well then I think I think that's all we have for this month. Thanks everybody for your time. Dan, if you have an email address, I can email you the minutes. If you want to just drop it in the chat, maybe.
Sure.
I can. That way, I'll have your contact info too. But
Yeah.
no, it'll be to
Oh,
send you the
that
meeting
was
minutes from
good.
today. I shouldn't have said
Slick
anything.
man.
That was
man.
slick. Now, I knew there's an ulterior motive there.
Always an ulterior motive.
No,
But yeah,
I
I'll,
was going to ask about the minutes. Anyway, I feel like I've seen them before, but couldn't, off the top of my head, remember where I've seen them.
typically I will send them, you know, I usually send them to Sharon, and I think she posts them on the town website. So they should be there too.
That's
Um,
probably where I've seen
I
them.
should probably post the minutes on Front Porch Forum now that I think about it, because I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing the agendas, but I haven't been putting the minutes up. I don't know, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
But just to get them out there, you know.
Yeah, I know that Jessica does something like that, notes from the select board meetings,
Right.
throws
Yep.
it on there.
Right. Yeah, so maybe
Anyway,
that.
Dan, I've got your email address, so you've already exposed yourself.
Just one of many, many lists that I'm on.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody again for your time. I really appreciate it. I'll send out the meeting minutes. If anybody has any questions or clarifications, as always, let me know. And if I don't talk to everybody, we'll see you at the next meeting, okay?
All right.
That's
Thanks so
good.
much. And I'm sorry I'm late. So
Oh, no worries, Sally.
anyway,
Thanks,
okay.
everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Take care.